Hello, grade 2. Today we will continue answering the Unit 5 review, and it says here choose the correct pronoun to replace the underlined words. And okay, it says write the sentence, but we will just choose we or us to replace the underlined words. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is we will answer two or the first three by together, and then I want you to close the video and try to answer it by yourself, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so we will choose we or us to replace the underlined word. Okay, number 1 says Lisa and I went to see Mrs. Ruse. Okay, we will choose we because the underline is before the verb. The underlined words is before the verb. Remember, we use we when you are talking about yourself with someone else. Okay, so we use we and us when we talk about ourselves with somebody else. So if I'm talking about myself with somebody else before the verb, I use we. Okay, so we went to the movies, but we use us when it's after the verb, okay, in the predicate part, but we is in the subject part of the sentence. So remember that if the underlined words are before the verb, then we use we. If it's after the verb, we use us. Number 1, we said we went to see Miss Ruse. My sister and I brought cookies. Okay, so my sister and I is before the verb. We will choose we again. Mrs. Ruse asked Lisa and me to come in. So it's after the verb. After the verb ask, we will choose us. Mrs. Ruse asked us to come in. Okay, number 4, she hugged my sister and me. So the underlined words are after the verb, so we use us. She hugged us. Her dog greeted Lisa and me too. So after the verb, it's after greet, so it's us. Her dog greeted us. Lisa and I patted Pepito. So Lisa and I is before the verb, so we'll use we. Sometimes she and I walk Pepito. So she and I is before the verb, which is walk. So we will use we. Sometimes we walk Pepito. My family and I mow the lawn. My family and I is before the verb. We choose we. Mrs. Ruse and my family are neighbors. Mrs. Ruse and my family, so we are neighbors. Mrs. Ruse babysat for Lisa and me. So babysat here is the verb. So this is after, so we use us. Mrs. Ruse babysat for us. Okay, it says read each sentence, write we or us. We will not write the sentence. We will just replace the underlined word with we or us. Okay, so write we or us in place of the underlined words. Mrs. Ruse made Lisa and me. So the underlined word comes after the verb. We will replace it with us. Mrs. Ruse made us cocoa. Lisa and I served the cookies. So Lisa and I is before the verb. We will change it to we. We served the cookies. Pepito barked at Mrs. Ruse, Lisa, and me. So the underlined words are after the verb. We will replace it with us. Mrs. Ruse, Lisa, and I laughed. This is before the verb, so we laughed. Lisa and I gave Pepito a special treat. Lisa and I is before the verb. We will replace it with we. Okay, the same thing here. It says how to use I and me. Remember, we use I before the verb. I is when you talk about yourself, but it's in the subject part of the sentence. So that means I is always written before the verb, but me comes after the verb. And when you use I, when you talk about yourself with another person, like if I say my mom and I must mention the other person first. And you always have to remember that I always has to be capital letter, even if it's in the middle of the sentence. So my sister and I, which one is the correct one? The capital one. My sister and I like to bake. Mom gave, so gave is the verb. Mom gave Sarah and me, or me and Sarah? No, Sarah and me. You must mention the other person first and then mention yourself. Sarah, Mom gave Sarah and me a cookbook. Sarah and I, with a capital letter, checked the recipes. I and she and I picked one. No, she and I. You must mention her first and then mention yourself. Number 5, Mom worked with Sarah and me. Me and Sarah. Mom worked with Sarah and me. Sarah and me, mention the other person first. Sarah, Mom, and I made bread. I chose I because it's before the verb, because the verb here is made. So Sarah, Mom, and I. Okay, here Mom and I, or Mom and I with a capital letter, found the bowls. She showed Sarah and me, or me and Sarah, the mixer. She showed Sarah and me. Always mention the other person first. Mom and I poured the batter. Mom and I with a capital I. Sarah and I, Sarah and me, learned how to turn on the oven. So Sarah and I learned how to turn on the oven. With the, okay, not Sarah and me. Sarah and I, because it's before the verb. At the bottom here, we will change the sentences that do not use I and me correctly. So change Dad asked Sarah and I for a taste of the bread. Dad asked. So asked is the verb. So Dad asked Sarah and me for a taste. Okay. Number 2, Mom sliced the bread for me. Mom sliced the bread for me. It's correct, so we will not change anything. Because slice the bread for me. Yes, me comes after the verb. Sarah and me gave, no. Sarah and I gave Dad a slice. Okay, Sarah and I, because it's before the verb. If it's after the verb, it can be me. Number 14, Dad gave Sarah and I a hug. No, Dad gave Sarah and me, because gave is the verb, because you come after with me. Sarah and I are good bakers. Yes, it's correct. We won't change anything here. Okay. And I think that's it, right? Okay, so that's what we have one more page. Okay, 340. We will choose the correct verb for each pronoun. Remember, if the pronoun is he, she, or it, they are singular pronouns. Okay, he or she or it, we add an S to the verb. We choose the verb that has an S. If it's I, we, you, and they, we choose the verb as it is. We do not choose the verb with the S. So he, she, it. Remember, we add an S to the verb. I, you, we, and they, we take the verb as it is. Leave it as it is, okay? So I like. It says underline the pronoun and circle the verb. So I is the pronoun, underline, and we will circle the verb like. We, underline the pronoun and circle the verb play. It's very easy. I thought it would be So I is the pronoun, underline, and circle the verb. They is the pronoun, underline, and circle the verb wait. He is the pronoun, circle the verb plays. See, he, we see the verb with, we take the verb has S after it. He brings. He, again, the verb has S at the end. She, the verb has S at the end. Circle, underline she, and circle the verb we, and circle the verb need. You, circle the verb call. They, and circle the verb live. Now we will choose the verb, okay? I throw. Okay, if the sentence begins with the pronoun I, we take the verb without the S. She hits. We have the verb with S. It lands. We take the verb with S. She sends. We take the verb with S. They shear. No S. Okay, and that was it for today. I hope it was pretty easy. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me